Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gaming with me, Tony Mo, and welcome back to my review in progress of Destiny. Of course, Bungie's latest and, should we say greatest? Maybe not, maybe so, first-person shooter. Today we're going to be talking about the PvP aspect of Destiny, or what is otherwise known as the Crucible. In my opinion, the Crucible is one of the strongest portions of Destiny, which is crazy to say, but to me it's kind of the glue that holds the game together. Without the Crucible, without the PvP in Destiny, I have to say that I personally would find Destiny to be an extremely lackluster experience. There's a lot of things that the Crucible does that just help make the game a complete package and kind of help make up for what was, to me, a really poorly constructed and almost just loosely built single-player or cooperative experience in terms of the PvE and the story. So the PvP for me kind of makes up for that, on top of the fact that once you hit level 20 in Destiny, you're going to spend a lot of time grinding for gear. Grinding is a big part of Destiny. Sadly, the game seems to follow the sort of classic MMO formula, maybe almost a little bit too closely, but regardless, if you plan on playing the game past level 20, you're going to be grinding at least until new content is released. That means playing strike missions over and over and over again, or perhaps even playing story missions over and over again. Of course, the alternative to that is actually playing the Crucible or the PvP, which is something that I much rather would do rather than grind like the same strike mission 50 times over. I have to say there are certain strike missions that I do really enjoy, but it seems like the stuff that existed in the beta was like the best of what Destiny had to offer, and then further down the road I've become less and less. I've enjoyed the strike missions less and less, so the Crucible has then been there to sort of make up things for me. Now, one of the other cool things that I like about the Crucible, the way that Bungie is doing it, is similar to past Halo titles. There are essentially like 3 to 4 active playlists that you can play at any given time. Then there are also daily or weekly playlists that change on the fly. So for example, we had Salvage for a while, which was a 3 vs 3 multiplayer mode that required each team to sort of capture and control salvage points. We then had Clash, I believe, is the one that you guys are actually seeing right here, which is again another sort of team deathmatch based game mode. And they keep sort of cycling these in and out. I like that because it keeps it fresh. You know, it also gives a sort of point of interest for people who are actually engaging in combat in the Crucible to drive towards. When you have like static game modes in a multiplayer experience, unless that game features a really large player basis, you're going to start to get game modes that become stagnant, where there's not a lot of people playing them. It's hard to find matches, and it just becomes a really irritating issue. Sometimes there's even like a small group of people who consistently play that game mode, and they'll start to dominate everyone else who attempts to play it, or it starts to fall off. By having those sort of weekly modes that alter and change over time, you're driving a large portion of the player basis to those modes because there's something new and interesting. So you get that player count increase for that mode for the week, and again, it kind of helps keep the playlist fresh and alive, which to me is just a very intelligent thing when it comes to a multiplayer experience. Regardless of how many players you have, it's always good to do that sort of thing. Again, it just helps keep the player base, the numbers high for individual game modes. Now, I won't say that I think Destiny's Crucible is as well balanced as other multiplayer titles out there. I think it is fairly well balanced. I do think that certain weapons are a little bit too powerful. They don't really throw off the balance of the game, but they simply make the game a one-shot kill affair, maybe just a little bit too often. For example, I think the fusion rifles are extremely powerful, as well as the shotguns. When used in the right manner, they can be extremely devastating. As you guys are seeing here from this match, I was using the shotgun combined with my Titan class's melee ability to be just an extremely effective and rather devastating close quarters opponent, which is a really great time, but I find that the game doesn't really have enough variety amongst the weapon types. There isn't enough of the player's base using, like, you know, scout rifles. Hell, even burst rifles aren't really using. What we're really seeing right now is auto rifles, shotguns, and the fusion rifle. And that's it. I mean, those are really the big ones. The auto rifle especially. So I'm not going to say, you know, one is more overpowered or one or the other thing is, but I'm going to look to Bungie to sit down and realize what are players using, what aren't they using. Okay, how do we balance and tweak to make sure that there is a larger variety of weapons being used amongst the players in an effective manner? I mean, that's just how any good multiplayer experience has to be tailored over time. You have to watch what the players are using, what are they doing, what are they not doing, what are they not using, and then you have to balance and try and bring those weapons that aren't being used into the light a little bit more. Give players a reason to use them. And then vice versa, give players maybe a reason to take down the shotgun and stop using it for a little bit. You have to balance, you have to play with that. And that is something, of course, that is going to be done over time. Destiny has only been out for about a week and a half now, maybe 2 weeks. Don't even actually remember, to be honest. But it hasn't been that much time. Hopefully Bungie's gathering the data, taking the numbers, looking at what we're doing and what we aren't doing, and making those fixes on the fly to help make the Crucible a more enjoyable and a more balanced experience. And again, an experience that features a little bit more variety. That's really the big thing, It doesn't matter how well balanced your game is if you don't have players using a little bit of everything. I mean, when you put something into a multiplayer experience, or when you put something into a game in general, the idea is to make sure that the player uses it. You don't want to just put something in a game, a concept, a feature, a weapon, and then not have players use it. That's basically just poor game design. It's really not what you were intending to do in the first place. You didn't put scout rifles in the game so people could just never use them, So that's, again, something that will come hopefully with time. Balance, data, all that good stuff. Bungie will see what's going on with that and be able to tweak those things on the fly. Now, one of the other components to me that makes Crucible very fun inside of Destiny is the special abilities that the character classes have. While I do find that they sometimes can be a little bit overwhelming, especially something like the Blade Dancer class, or perhaps even something like the Titan, which can just kind of come out of nowhere and absolutely decimate a large number of people. But I actually like that randomness. I think it gives a sense of fear when you start to recognize that a certain player is doing exceptionally well, that player is going to have the ability or the energy level to use their special ability. They become a little bit more of a high priority target, not just to kill, but to engage in a certain manner. You recognize that the player on the other team is number one, he's a Titan, and he has a ton of kills, and there's a very good chance that he probably has a special ability up. So you're going to want to be very careful how you choose to engage him. The same thing goes with the Hunter class, or perhaps even the Warlock. I think they just throw a nice sort of wild card into the mix. That isn't so much of a wild card. It's like a consistent wild card. It has a bit of variety and excitement to the game mode. And to be honest, there's nothing more satisfying than taking down an Interceptor with the Titan Smash, the Golden Gun, or one of the Warlock's Plasma Blast. I mean, that is just really fun. You have this guy in a sort of heavy class vehicle, strolling around, wiping out your teammates, and all of a sudden you show up, jump out of the air, and smash his vehicle to bits and murder him to pieces. It just doesn't get much more satisfying than that in terms of the revenge category. So grenades are another thing that I think Halo has always done really well, and I think that Destiny to me does better than any other game because of the variety of grenade types you have. You have grenades like the lightning grenade or the shock grenade that the Titan features, which are not only just used to deal damage, but are used to sometimes just block entry points, create these sort of bottlenecks by forcing players to move through certain parts of the map. The grenades can be used, on a much deeper level. They're not just a very straightforward and linear damage-based item inside of the game, and I think that, again, adds that bit of variety and excitement to the PvP. Now, the vehicles inside of Destiny, to me, have been done to the point where they're not a serious issue. Don't get me wrong, if you let someone go unattended in a Pike or an Interceptor, they're going to make your team have a very, very bad day. But the fact is, there are a lot of things that the player can do without having a vehicle in their possession to eliminate those vehicles. So I think the vehicles feel pretty well balanced. I was actually pretty excited to see where they had gone with them. I haven't really had one of those matches where it felt like the other team was just running us over, because we weren't doing what we needed to do to eliminate the vehicles. There are enough opportunities, there are enough ways that each of the individual players on any given team can eliminate a vehicle on the other team, apart from using like heavy weapons and things like that. So I think that in general has just been very well done, and it makes vehicles an enjoyable addition to the game, not an irritation, not really a nuisance, which is definitely something that you want to avoid at all costs when creating a multiplayer experience that is going to feature any sort of vehicles, especially ones with weapons equipped to them. In terms of map variety in Destiny, there's a nice mixture. I think the maps themselves are very gorgeous. I haven't had any issues with any of the designs of the map. I have to admit that the Moon map, one of the larger maps that does include vehicles, isn't exactly my favorite. I find that it sort of often turns into a sniper camp fest, because players now have the ability to actually carry a sniper rifle at any given time. I don't know how I feel about that. I still feel that secondary ammo, shotgun, fusion rifle, and sniper rifle ammo needs to be limited even further. It's just much too frequently placed on the map, and it's much too readily available, especially when you start to look at how each of these weapons seems to be very effective in their own situations. For example, on the moon map, you know, the sniper rifle is like the go-to weapon. Any of the close quarters maps, fusion rifle and shotgun just absolutely decimate. I just wish they were a little bit more, there was a little bit less ammunition. I mean, because it's simply going to make that weapon a little bit more of a high reward, high risk weapon. Like, I only have 3 shots, you know, when am I going to use it? When am I going to try and engage? Rather than there just seemingly being an endless supply of shotgun and fusion rifle ammunition and sniper rifle ammunition to constantly, you know, pick off people from 3 miles away, or, you know, run in and mow everyone down with your shotgun and fusion rifle. So, again, really the things that bother me about the PvP are more balance-based issues that will hopefully be repaired over time. And I think moving forward, that's really the big thing we're going to have to ask ourselves with Destiny in general. But when we look at the PvP, the Crucible portion of Destiny, is just how well Bungie supports it, how well they take feedback from the community. They look at statistical data to try and balance the game and make sure that every portion, every aspect of the Crucible experience is being utilized by players, not just 1 or 2 items within the game. So for me, the Crucible is the way to go. Once I hit 20, to be honest, I didn't really care about anything else in the game. The Crucible was the one thing that kept me playing. The last thing that I really have to say about it is that while you can continue to earn loot drops while playing the PvP, it is 100% random. That means that the person at the bottom of the team could have gone 2-67 and been absolutely no benefit to your team, and he can still get a legendary, while you may be one of the top team players with the most assists, the most kills, and you're not going to be rewarded with anything. I understand the point in doing this is to not reward players that are extremely good at the game and then penalize players who aren't very good, but I still think there is a better system that could be put in place. Let me know your thoughts on Destiny's PvP, the Crucible, in the comment section below. Also, let me know what your favorite game mode is and your best kill death streak, best kill death ratio, or perhaps your best or favorite weapon to use in the Crucible in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next one.